Hey everybody, Jack from Fantasy Can here, and we're talking draft strategies. Let me just put it out there now. Having a good draft can make or break your season. We all know this. We all know if we get a good couple players in the first couple rounds or in the later rounds, some sleepers that are pretty nice, you're set off real well. Drafting can be kind of overwhelming. You know that if you draft the right players, you'll probably go on to win a championship. And you know if you draft the wrong ones, your season's down the toilet. That's why I like to break up the draft into 3 different parts. The first 3 rounds, middle rounds, and then your later rounds. You want to know who to target in each one. First couple rounds, obviously, we're looking for the studs. We're looking for those guys that you know are good and you know can lead you to a championship this season. For the middle, you're going to search for people who you think are going to break out. Near the end, you're just taking shots at anyone who you think is going to be good that year. So to start off with, let's take a look at the first 3 rounds. For me, I normally end up going one of 4 ways. You can either go running back, wide receiver, running back, or wide receiver. So I'll take an in-depth look at all of them. This is a mock draft that I did in Fantasy Pros. Started off with running back, and if you look at it, it looks pretty good. I got Alvin Kamara and Devonta Freeman, both to start off with the draft. You look at them, and first of all, I see someone great in Kamara. I think he's going to be an absolute stud this year. And for Freeman, I think he's going to be solid too. Nothing too crazy, but pretty good. For Doug Baldwin in the 3rd round, I decided to go with him, even though I'm not a big fan of him, because I just need receivers. If you want to go with running back, you have to go receivers afterwards. That's number 1 rule. So I decided to load up on those. I got Baldwin, Diggs, Robinson, and then I figured I'm kind of looking good on both, so I snagged Cam Newton. Lamar Miller came after that because I felt that it was really important to get a running back. I figured if I didn't get another one, then I'm putting way too much trust in the 2 guys that I have. Even though I like both, it still doesn't make sense just to bank on them. Having depth at your position is the biggest weapon you can possibly have. So now let's look at running back, wide receiver. And just so you all know, this is from the 5th spot at a 10-team draft. So if we look at what we got here, Alvin Kamara to start. Again, I really like him this year, and I think that that's a great place to start. Keenan Allen comes next. And those 2 to start off your team, I like a lot. After that, we went Jarrett McKinnon and then Stephon Diggs and Alex Collins. So you can see I'm pretty much just trying to set up as much as I possibly can to have depth at both positions. Because if you have depth at both, you're going to be pretty well off. For wide receiver, running back, it's more or less the same strategy as running back and wide receiver. You want to stock up on running backs and wide receivers and just try and have a really solid, deep team. For this one, though, I did kind of want to go quarterback earlier, just so I can say that I did that and show you guys how I adjust to that. So I picked Rodgers in the 4th round. I like that pick because he's my number 1 rated quarterback this year, and he's just a stud and a future Hall of Famer. You really can't go wrong with that. But when you go with a quarterback so early, it's so incredibly important to load up on good other players. You take a look at the other people I have, and I have a lot of high ceiling players. Devin Funchess, I love him this year. He's a low draft price, and he looks pretty good with Cam. Lamar Miller with Watson coming back, I like that too. And even Marlon Mack and Robbie Anderson, who may not be the best at their position, but they still have a good upside. Next comes the strategy that I try and avoid because I'm just not a big fan of it, and that's wide receiver. Now for this, I went Hopkins and Thompson first, and I like both of them. I think they're both going to be having some good seasons this year, especially Hopkins with Watson coming back, because I am big on him. And Jordan Howard, who I feel is underrated, but as you can see by this, I'm a little biased. Alex Collins was another good pickup. A solid running back who will put up RB2 numbers, and you can find him kind of late. The one thing that you will notice that I did is I drafted Ingram a little early than a lot of other people want to. Ingram is suspended a couple games this season, but I still think that he might be able to retake a role that he had last season. And if he does that, I definitely made the right move picking him around there. Especially when you look at my running backs, because I'm not stacked on them. So now we're in the middle of the draft. And for me, my strategy is what I like to call the golden rule of drafting. Pick the players that you like. Pick the players that you feel have the most upside. Pick the players that you think are going to break out. Because if you do that, odds are one of them will. I know it seems really simple and kind of stupid to tell you just to pick the players that you like, but it really does mean a lot. I've seen it too often where people have bought hype on someone who they don't even really like. They just kind of follow what all the experts say, and they don't trust their gut. If there's one thing that's won me so many championships, is trusting my gut and going with who I think is the better play. And that's what this sport's all about. To have fun and be the manager of your own team. So take control of your team and draft the people that you want to. You'll probably end up with better players. Let's take a look at the ones that I really like this season. You probably noticed that I drafted a lot of players over and over in those drafts. And that's because I'm really big on him. Devin Funchess this year. Love him. I think he's going to be great. You take a look at the situation he's in. Calvin Benjamin's out, and Cam doesn't have a wide receiver one. Olsen is coming back, so that does mean he's probably not going to get as many targets. But if you're drafting him in the 8th round, that's more than worth that pick. Marlon Mack is another one. He's not a big name guy, but he should be the starting running back in Indianapolis. And any starting running back, to me, has value, especially when all the teams are going with committees. So what you should be doing is using the golden rule to make your team as deep as possible. Draft as many good running backs and good wide receivers as you possibly can. And even if you have too many, trade them. Trade them for other guys. It's not the end of the world if you're kind of low on running backs and you're like, well, there's a really good wide receiver over there, but I already have a lot of them. Drafting another wide receiver might not be a bad idea because that way you have so many, you can just dish them out for running backs. Now, trades are kind of rough because everyone's scared to let go of players. But if there's one thing that I've learned is that you're probably not going to keep this team. The team that you draft probably won't be the team that you finish the season with. So draft as many wide receivers and running backs as you can and make sure that you follow the golden rule. Now that we've reached the end of the draft, we know that the people are tired. They don't really care as much. They got their team. They're sticking with it. But if you care through the end of the draft, you're probably going to end up with some better players. So for me, Allen Hurns is an amazing value pick in the late rounds. You look what he did in 2015. Great season. Was able to put up monster numbers. Granted, the last two really haven't been too special. But when you look at where he's going, with Dak losing two of his key players, with Dez Bryant and Jason Witten, he needs someone to eat up targets, and Hurns most likely will be that guy. Another one is David Njoku, who I like a lot, who's on the Browns. Now, there are a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, but that man is really athletic, and he's going real late, so you can pick him up pretty much as your backup tight end, and he might be able to break out for you. Also, don't feel afraid to draft a kicker in like the 13th round. If you can get one of the top kickers like Greg Zuerlein or Steven Gostkowski, you're probably going to be sitting pretty. I had the Jags defense in Zuerlein last year, and they pretty much won me a championship. So you better believe I'm going to be keeping them in my Dynasty League. Drafting is hard. It's not something that you can just show up and do. That's why you should do plenty of mock drafts and have a strategy going in, because if you don't, odds are you're not going to end up with the team you want. I'm going to leave a link below to the draft website that I use so that you guys can use it too. I wish you guys the best of luck this season. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more. And be sure to check out the website that I have up for Fantasy Can for articles posted twice a week. Thanks, guys.